Right everybody, hello and welcome to my ESP120 stream. We are going to be covering some common issues and fixes for front crawl, butterfly and breaststroke today. So, this is my first time kind of talking to a camera, so apologies in advance for any stalling. Right, I think we should get into it. So the lineup for today, we are going to start by looking over some front crawl. Then we're going to cover over the butterfly stuff, and lastly ending on the breaststroke. Great. To do this, what we've got is I've got some pre-recorded videos. I'll be going over, highlighting any kind of bad technique, and then afterwards showing anything that can be used to kind of correct or help with. If there's any questions from the chat, please feel free to put it in. I'll do my best to answer it here and then. Without any further ado, I think we should get into the videos. Here and then. So, what I will do is I will start by playing the clip, talking over it, drawing over it, so everybody is good and knows what we are doing. Talking over it, drawing over it, so everybody is good. My bad. Right, sorry, technical difficulties. We're gonna go back, have another look over this. So, freestyle. First off, showing off actually how the stroke should work. Nice long high elbow recovery, nice splashy toes. My whole body is very flat against the water. When I breathe, quick breath to the side, staying really, really nice and low and streamlined. So, in the next clip, I'm going to show, what you should be paying attention to is my legs. My arms and breathing should be fine, but my legs are going to be done incorrectly. So, we'll take another quick look at that. So about there. On the way over, as you can see, my legs aren't doing a whole lot of moving. They're just kind of more being dragged behind, very little kick. Then, on the way back, it's the complete opposite. I'm massively over-kicking, which a kick that fast isn't that effective. You're burning more energy than you're getting, especially as you can see where my legs and feet are coming all the way out of the water there. You don't really want that to happen. If you were just kicking air, you will not be moving anywhere. So you want to make sure your feet stay underwater the whole time. The legs for front crawl. Your toes should be nice and pointed with, it's kicking from your hips rather than your knees. Again, pointy toes, you want to keep your feet underwater the whole time. You want a nice small splash. You're aiming for about 6 kicks per every 3 arms. So, as you do an arm, 2 kicks, switching arm, another 2 kicks. In the next video the next little clip is going to be showing a bit of a fix on how to improve your kick. Here we are. So you can do this with a float to start with. You want to make sure your arms are nice and stretched out. Face is in the water still. And then with my kick, that is just a nice small splash behind me. You see, bigger, slower kick really propels me through the water. This is without any arms. Only source of movement is from my legs. Again, whole body stays very flat. Hips near the surface of the water. Now that's really important because it means that you are much more streamlined. This drill is called Streamline Kick with a Float, and as you will see after, you can also do it without the float. So if we go back to that one quickly, bit of a guessing game. Near the start of this video, I should have done this for longer. This is what is called streamline position. What it means is that I'm really, really narrow, so the water will pass around me and won't touch as much as my body as it would if my arms were out quite wide. What this means is my stroke and this drill will be much more efficient through the water because there is much less drag kind of slowing you down. It makes everything much easier in the long run. So, very similar with the float. Arms stay nice and tight above your head. When you're kicking, trying to go for about a 6-beat kick. Bigger and slower can be better. You can also kick a bit smaller and faster if that's what you're trying to work towards, like sprinting, gaining more speed. But for these videos, it's more of a kind of general. So when I breathe, my chin stays nice and low to the water. It is a quick breath in. That's not the tool I wanted. Quick breath in over here. And then my face will go straight back into the water. Really important when you're doing this, that you are breathing bubbles out. Whenever your face is in the water, you want to be blowing air out. That way, when you kind of come up for a breath, breathe in nice and quick, and then you're back to it. And that is the kick. So, moving on, we're going to take a look at, what are you taking a look at? We're going to take a look at some breathing. Freestyle, you want to be breathing to the side, because when you come up, the rest of your body drops and, well, slows you down massively. So, compared to when you're rolling, your body stays nice and flat throughout compared to going up and down all the time. So, we are going to now have a look at this video. Perfect. Perfect. I think that last breath probably showed it best. But can anybody in chat tell me kind of what's wrong with this? Any ideas? If we have any viewers. Give it a minute and see. Almost. So the arms are actually fine. It is just the breathing. So when I come up for a breath, I spend way too long on my side, and my arm is way too high up. My face should be back in the water long before then. I'm just taking way too long on my side. It makes it really, really difficult to breathe. I'm also lifting my whole head up off the water compared to staying nice and flat like we talked about a minute ago. So, really good fix. This is probably one of my favourite drills. Grabbing a kickboard, you're going to hold it one hand over the top. Just going to try swimming on your side. Now you'll see my ear stays really, really low, attached to my arm. Face is just out of the water. You're aiming to keep about half a goggle under the water. Whole body is still very, very flat. Turning around, same again on the way back. Just staying really, really nice and flat against the water. Again, you'll notice my hips are nice and high at the surface. Kick is, well, just slow and controlled. There is no rush when you're doing this drill. So, the kind of goal of swimming on your side is just to get yourself nice and comfy being that side on. It really helps with rotation and holding it there. Moving on to the next drill, still using a float, you're going to incorporate a bit of arm this time. So, you're going to do one arm, second arm, roll and breathe. Again, ear stays nice and low, trying to keep about half a goggle in the water. What you'll notice, if I play that again for you guys, take a nice quick breath, face goes straight back in before my arm is back in front of my face. See? Arm is up nice and high, face goes straight back into the water. Very similar to the other one, but now you also get to work on that rotation, and as an added benefit, of course, you get to work on that arm. The focus, though, would be still just keeping that breathing. Now, you can do it again. With this drill, what you can do eventually, or if I get to a point in the video where it wants to pause, you can take away the float, just keep one arm out, still doing the very similar thing. One arm, the other arm breathing. Again, just trying to keep nice and low to everything. Yeah. I think that is about it for front core breathing. You want to try and end up breathing about every 2 to 3 arms. It doesn't really matter. It tends to be, if you're sprinting, you want to do it every 2 so you can get enough air in and keep having that power. But if you're going for a bit longer distance, just keeping your face in the water, it tends to be a bit more relaxing. Right. We are going to move on to looking at some arms next. Now, arms are my favourite thing to work on with front crawl. So, starting with the video after this bit. First thing you'll notice, my arms are really, really straight, and they also tend to windmill a bit. What I mean by windmilling is that as one goes down, the other comes back, and they're staying opposite each other all the time without much room to kind of glide and get the most out of it. Now, if you're sprinting, you want to be able to turn your arms over as quickly as you can, because what it means is you just keep that constant speed, keep that momentum. Really good over a short distance, but over a bit of a longer distance, it isn't that great. You're going to get really nice, well, you're going to get really tired out really quickly. So, what you really would like to aim for is a high elbow recovery, as I'll show you here. So, what it is, if I go back a little bit and try and pause it at the right time. High elbow recovery is where my wrist and my hand is lower than my elbow. Now, quite a few different benefits to that. We'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. Now, anyway, a bit more onto the drill. The drill is called dragging drill. It is my favourite drill ever. I love doing it myself. Really, really helps with trying to get that high elbow recovery. So, what you want to do, staying on this image, you'll notice my fingertips are staying in the water. Again, elbows nice and high, and the rest of my body now is slanted compared to being flat like that. If you're flat like that, you will find it really, really difficult to try and get your elbow up, just because of how your body works. So, lots of rotation, aiming to get side on, almost trying to get your armpit out of the water. That's what I tend to say when I'm teaching it to different kids. So, again, fingertips stay in the water, pushing the water forward. You could do this with a float, you could do this without a float. I believe I show it without a float also after this one. Fingertips stay in, whole body stays nice and flat. When you breathe, still working on that breathing that we've just gone over, staying nice and low to the water. Again, nice high elbow, really pushing the water over. It's a bit slow, it's a bit, well, not time consuming. You just need a bit of patience for it. And again, you can do it in several different versions. So I'll have a quick look at this one. So, cool. Before we move on to that one, have a quick look at this again. If I can pause it in the right place. Again, really, really nice high elbow. My armpit comes out of the water, fingertips stay nice and low, trying to flick the water forward. Rest of my body stays nice and flat against the water, nice high hips. Kick, nice and splashy, but not over kicking, not under kicking. When I'm on my side, ear stays nice and low, quick breath in before my face goes straight back into the water. Now, really important, keeping a low head. I'll go over a bit more of that in a minute. So, next version of it is combining two, again, of my absolute favourite drills, catch up and dragging. What catch up is, if we switch camera over, perfect. What catch up is normally with freestyle you're timing. You do one arm, and then you do the other before it gets to it. Like that. Bit funny trying to show it sat down. I might try and stand up with this one. Am I still on frame? Yep. So, for catch up, what you do one arm, and you wait for it to come back over, out in front, before you start the next one. Out, and back. 1, 2, 3, then you roll, take a breath in, and face goes back in the water. So, what catch up allows you to do is just take some more time, really, really focus on doing one arm and also when you're breathing separately, compared to just trying to worry more about the timing. The timing in front crawl is surprisingly difficult. So, you can do catch up with a float also to kind of get a bit more practice with it, but as you go on, you can do it without. And I will go over the benefits of a float in a minute, definitely. So, as you see, still going along. It can be a bit tricky to get used to, trying to keep your fingers in the water, but again, really, really good drill for working on that rotation, working on that high elbow recovery. So, is there any benefits to using a float? So, what a float kind of helps you do is, it's just about building that almost like mind to muscle connection. When you take away a float, then you need to think actively about keeping that arm out because you've now got nothing to hold on to. That's one of the reasons. Another reason that's good to use a float is also just because it floats. It kind of gives you that extra buoyancy, you don't have to worry too much about keeping yourself upright. But again, probably the main benefit to higher level drills is just so you've got something to remind you to keep your arm out with. Hope that answers your question. Right, going back into freestyle. Now you will see a clip of everything that we've talked about being put together, and again I will talk over the stroke after we've seen it. So, I'm actually quite impressed with how I look myself. So, as you see, when I do it, have a nice high elbow recovery up there. Whole body is very flat, nice splashy toes, but my feet stay under the water. And the important thing is, for the timing, is that I'm leaving that arm out. I know that's a lot going on, but again, we'll go through it a little bit slower if I can get a better frame. Almost, so. Going through it one at a time. Now, when we're teaching, we follow something called BLAPT. What BLAPT is it is body, legs, arms, breathing, timing. Had to remind myself then. What it basically is the order for how things should be taught and almost like an order of importance. So, it's really important that we learn floating first, so that way we have a really nice good body position before we do anything with the kicking, arms, breathing, timing. So, going back into the video quickly. First, Body. Nice and high up on the surface. Nice high hip position. I'm not sinking whatsoever. Really, really important because it keeps me nice and streamlined. Moving on to the legs. Legs. Not over kicking. Feet, heels just come out of the water. That's absolutely fine. The rest of them is a nice, slower, rhythmatic kick. That is the important thing, that there is rhythm. And as you see, I'm not just kicking however. And I should be able to pause this at any frame for this next bit. Moving on to arms. Arms, really nice high elbow recovery, keeping that armpit dry like I talked about earlier. Really, really useful to try and build up that almost like mind-muscle connection, thinking about trying to get your armpit up out of the water. Really nice and side on, almost like I'm about to shoot bow and arrow. Other thing with arms is my pull. Now, as you'll notice, if I can pause it at the right time, there we are, it's good. We're going to look at the underwater part here. I know it's a little bit blurry, it's a little bit hard to see. The way to think about it is, you don't want to keep a straight arm. A straight arm, you will really struggle to get a nice good catch. What I mean by catch is, it's the start of your arm pull. If you don't catch any water, you won't move anywhere because you won't have a strong enough thing to be able to pull. So, we have a look at that arm. Follow that underwater arm. There. Pulls myself forward through the water instead of just pushing water, if that makes sense. Moving on to the breathing. We'll have a look at the breathing on the way back. For my breathing, nice and quick breath into the side. Lastly, the timing. We have a quick look at the whole video again to get a nice good timing of the arms. So, I don't start dropping that second arm until that other one is almost in the water. That is because it means I get the most out of every arm pull. That didn't make... I think that's the best way to describe it. It's so you get a bit of a glide and you're not wasting any energy. For a longer distance swim, that is exactly what you want. For shorter distances, it's a bit other way around. You want to throw your arms about willy-nilly. Basically, so the legs give you that kind of propulsion from behind to help push you forwards. And then the arms are more about, if we swap the camera over. So what I mean by the catch, we'll go back to the catch quickly. Ugh, getting stuck on the chair. Have a look at my arm. If my arm is straight, there is quite a bit. It's almost like leverage. A lot can push that down, and I'm using that whole arm. It kind of goes through the water. Imagine like you're trying to karate chop water. Your hand's going to go through. If you turn it the other way, you get that bigger splash. For your catch, instead of keeping a straight arm, if you bend it in slightly, like that, before you start to pull, you will catch a lot more water. You go in and then you move yourself past that point. If that makes sense to everybody. Last little bit on freestyle then, I think, because we have covered everything on that. We'll play the video one last time. And everything is just very nice, consistent and smooth. Perfect. Is there any other questions for the freestyle? Give it a minute. Best way to monitor all these movements for yourself? Really good question. It's quite tricky to be able to improve on your own. The best way to do it is to have somebody else, because you can't record yourself in most swimming pools, especially not in the UK, because it goes against all their policies and safeguarding different things like that. So what you need to try and do, if you have a partner, friend, swim buddy, anything like that, that is kind of the best thing. Just have them have a quick look at what your stroke's looking like. Ask them questions and try and get them to look at specific parts of the stroke. For example, are my elbows higher than my wrist? Is my kick making a massive splash, or is there no splash at all? Basic things like that can help monitor. Equally, getting just a one-off swim lesson, if you've got a stroke in mind you want to improve on, I'm sure a teacher would be more than happy to kind of go over all the basics again, or point out any different things that need a little bit of work, as well as give you some drills to work on for after. Equally, they could be quite greedy and want to keep you on forever and not give you anything to work on after, but it can be a bit of luck of the draw. Another good way that you can kind of monitor the movements yourself is just timing yourself. Generally, if you are getting better and more efficient at a stroke, you will be moving through the water faster, and you'll find that naturally you can go further, you can last a bit longer while you're swimming lengths. Hope that helps. Best stroke for strokes for situations, that is something else really entirely that goes more onto water safety. Because butterfly is very explosive, really good for sprinting, almost as quick as front crawl now. Very, very similar times, especially looking at that Olympic level. Breaststroke, a bit more casual, doesn't use as much energy. You know, if you're going out for a casual swim, breaststroke you might quite like. Front crawl is kind of like your bread and butter of swimming. It's good at everything. But then you get into the different ones, like side stroke, life-saving backstroke. So if you're trying to save somebody in the water, life-saving backstroke's good for toes, but then again, you shouldn't be putting yourself in that situation to start with. So it really depends, but that could have a whole stream for itself, to be honest with you. Is there anything else from anybody? If not, we are going to cut to a very quick break, and I will be back for some more butterfly after. There?
Yeah.
Yes, right, we are back. Sorry about that. Right. We are now back for some butterfly. So, very quickly, at the start I forgot to shout out Swim Wild Academy. They are a Cornish swim school down here in Falmouth. They work
Alright, audio's coming through. Alpha 2, 3. You ready?
Yeah, find us on Facebook, turn it off. Cool. Right, and we are back again with absolutely no technical difficulties whatsoever. So, I forgot to shout out Swim Wild Academy at the start. They are a Cornish swim school based in Falmouth and Penryn. They were very kind enough to let me use one of their swimming pools to record all of my bits and pieces for this. You can find them on Facebook at Swim Wild Academy. I work with them for cover at the moment, hopefully for some actual lessons next year, which would be really nice. But you can also find clips and pieces of this stream after on their social media. So, the other thing I forgot to mention was my own personal qualifications. I am a level 2 ASA swim teacher. I've been qualified as a level 2 now for the last 2.5 years, working part-time for 1.5 years of it, full-time for 1 year of it. Working across various different swim schools. I've got a few different other qualifications such as swim bees, preschool, Neraztech recently, and qualified to teach stage 8, 9 and 10. That was my most recent one. Good fun course. The other thing is, I am trying to build up a small online presence as a digital swim school, as well as offering lessons outside of that for whichever local area I happen to be in. So if you wouldn't mind, a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. A like would be great also. You can find me on Facebook at Axflow Swim School. You should also be able to find me on Instagram at Axflow Swim School. Again, more bits and clips and pieces will be on that soon. Anyway, we are going to get right back into some butterfly. Butterfly is considered one of the hardest strokes. You will see why. So to start with, we are going to show off what the actual stroke should look like. So, it is very explosive. You need quite a lot more strength than you do technique to be able to do this stroke really, really effectively. I always struggled with it. I couldn't actually swim it when I first qualified to be a teacher, and I had to spend about 4 months trying to teach it to myself. Not everybody will get it, not everybody will be able to do it, but hopefully we can try and get as many of you to give it a go as we can with some different tricks and tips for it. So if we have a quick look back at the video, what we are going to have a look at again is the full stroke. So, there are 2 dolphin kicks to every arm pull. You breathe either every stroke, every cycle, or every other cycle. It is really up to you. I tend to prefer every other, just so that way I can keep streamlined, keep a bit more momentum going. So, one more time, let me go back and have a quick. So, the arms start. Oh, that's too irritating. Arms start out in front of you here. They then go down before coming all the way around and over, and they end up back in front. Butterfly is a continuous stroke. That means that your arms keep moving all the time and there isn't much time to pause. You do 2 undulating dolphin kicks per every arm cycle. 1 at the start of the movement when your arms are out straight, you do your first kick. Then as your arms are leaving over here, that's when you do your second kick. And it kind of all flows with your body. And there is a lot of body movement, a lot of wiggling. The first thing we're going to look at is the kick. So, I will show off butterfly with a really bad kick. So, on the way over, my kick is really just too small, too quick. As you can see, it is just going like that all the time. That really throws off my upper body and my movement with my arms. It also messes up the timing for your breathing, and everything from butterfly should start with a really nice dolphin kick. Because at points, my hips want to go up whilst my back wants to go up. It just doesn't really work. What you want to have all the time is that nice, smooth body, not these up, that up, and it's really flat and just horrible to try and swim, try and look at. On the way back, I believe it's the opposite. My kick is way too big and inconsistent. Again, you can see I'm using way too much knee. My legs are literally at that right angle. Feet are outside of the water. Not that good. Makes a massive splash. I soaked my poor cameraman. So, to fix it, easiest thing to do is just work on a really nice, smooth dolphin kick. Taking away the arms, big and slow. I'm quite bad at it, but you should aim to try and keep your feet a little bit more underwater. A big splash occasionally is absolutely fine, but the whole thing should be nice and smooth. I don't go back far enough. So, dolphin starts all from your chest. As your chest goes down, your hips come up, and then your feet kick down also. And it is a constant up and down, like that across the whole pool. You breathe every 4 strokes, and you want to breathe, I'll show you when. Naturally, as your chest starts to rise, that's when you lift up, take a breath, keep your chin nice and flat to the water, and then as you start your next kick, face dives back in and you keep going. So all the time it's that nice undulating movement. Other way you can do it is with your arms out in front of you. It's a little bit trickier because your chest can't go as far down, and now you're relying more on that lower back and hip strength flowing through to your feet. However, it's still really good practice. For this, you do not want your hands to touch. You will notice my hands are separate. That is because for butterfly, especially if you are teaching kids, your hands do start apart. They don't start touching each other there. It just gives you a much greater pull, and that way you're not trying to pull out and down like that. You just pull that straight around the rest of your body. So, just to clarify, dolphin kick. Bigger, slower kick is much better. Keep a rhythm going. The way I used to teach it to some kids is to think of their favourite song and kind of have a bit more of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 going. A lot of people will say it all starts from your hips, from there. The issue with trying to start from your hips is that then your upper body doesn't do a lot and you miss out on quite a lot of power. If you are just using your hips, it is more of a back and forth, almost doing a Mr. Bean dance like that. We don't want to be doing a Mr. Bean. You want to make sure your chest is what leads. Push your chest forward, then you push your tummy out before kicking with your feet. Chest to tummy to feet. And you get a much better wiggle all the time. Head stays relatively still. The rest of you does all the moving. So, moving on. Next thing to look at is going to be breathing and arms. As you will notice, I am launching myself out of the water with this one. Let's have a quick look again. Go back a bit. I go all the way out, like out of there. Chin is miles off the water. We don't want that because what happens is now the rest of me is all the way underwater. I lose so much momentum because I'm angled like that. All the water will push up against me, slow me down massively, compared to staying nice and streamlined, where that way only that first bit of water is still going to catch me. You want to try and stay on top of the water as much as you can. My arms also, you will notice, they were not straight at all. They are bent over like that. It is really tricky then to try and clear your hands from the water. As you can tell there, my hands still all the way underwater creates much more drag. Not good. Slows you down. You use a lot of energy wasted on almost nothing. On the way back, other way around, I'm going to breathe way too late. Go back a bit. My hands are behind me here. I'm trying to lift up, and as you can tell, my whole face is still all the way underwater. Really not good, because you can't come up and take a breath. It slows you down massively, and I'm waiting to come up before I flick my hands back over. And again, my whole arm is under the water still. There is so much drag, it is very difficult, and my feet have come all the way up, trying to give me enough propulsion and trying to lift the rest of me up. Not good at all. I almost look like I'm shaped like a plane at this one. Not good. Same kind of thing the whole way. Everything is just very slow. It's really tiring to do. So, really nice easy drill. Why is the timing for breathing important? So, it's really important. Let me, come on. Timing for breathing, really important, because if you breathe too early, here, and you're pulling, you tend to pull and push your whole body up and out of the water. And as you saw, whole body comes up, you dive back down, you lose a lot of momentum. If you breathe too late, and you try and lift up, and your arms are coming over as you're breathing, whole body stays underwater. It's the opposite effect. You drag your arms through the water. It's really tiring. So, breathing timing. We'll go over it again in a minute, but I'll go over it for you now also. As you pull, you want your arms underneath you, so you're still traveling forward. That way you can lift up, chin stays nice and low, face goes back in as your arms leave and come round. Just makes the whole thing flow, keeps you really nice and streamlined, makes everything much more efficient. So, if we have a look at the fix, really good fix for arms and breathing together. What you are going to do, you're just going to stop kicking. Just focus on your arms, focus on the breathing also. I think for the first one, we do both. So, start with a nice big push and glide, gain a lot of momentum. Do an arm pull, do another arm pull. We're not even breathing for this one. It is literally just butterfly arms. Should we go back a bit further? So, everything will stay really, really flat. Oh, doesn't want to work. Everything will stay really, really flat at the top of the water, which is what we want. There won't be much wiggling. Everything stays nice and at the surface. When we do our arms, let's try and pause this at the right time. My whole arm is clearing the water before it dives back in front of me there. Back just comes out, which is great. Hips stay nice and high, feet stay under the water. Really, really good body position. And you just go as far as you can without taking a breath. So, that is another thing after. So, as you can see a little bit, I do have a very small kick. Now, that is not from me intentionally trying to do it. It is just from natural body movement. As my chest lifts up, the rest of my body goes down, and again, it creates that nice wiggle, which is really, really great. It means that I'm doing a lot less moving. So, on the way back, I am going to add in a bit of a kick. Now, I'm going to do arms, kick, kick. Arms, kick, kick. Arms, then it would be another 2 kicks. What that kind of lets you focus on is just the kicking. Well, not just the kicking. It is everything but the breathing. The breathing is the really difficult bit. It throws off a lot of people when, even when they can do the rest of the stroke, the breathing comes in, ruins everything. Breathing in butterfly is really, really tricky. So, by just doing the arms to start with, you can get used to them. You can keep your body really, really nice and flat at the surface of the water. By then adding a kick, kick, then an arms, what you're then doing is just introducing that next little bit before the full stroke timing. 2 kicks, then an arms, still no breathing, just go as far as you can, stop where you are, come up for a quick breath, go back to it. Really nice and easy drill. Now we're going to have a look at the full timing. After this bit pauses, well, plays through even. So, this is really, really bad timing. Everything mechanically is there. I have a decent kick going, decent arms, breathing is nice and low. Everything is just really poorly timed, and it almost looks like I'm drowning in the pool trying to swim this. Not great. Actual timing is this. It looks quite funky. The best thing to do is just give it a practice on land. It is kick, pull, breathe, kick, pull. So I'm going a bit quick on that one. I'm going to do it in person. So, arms start in front of you. You do your first kick. You start your pull. As your arms are underneath you, you lift your head to breathe. Kick, arms, back. Kick, pull, breathe, kick, arms recover. Kick, pull, breathe, kick, arms recover. And you keep going the whole time, and that way you can also do a little bit less breathing. Again, everything is there, it is just putting it together and practicing. It is really, really tricky too though. So we have a look at the whole stroke again now. Strong pull, arms clear the water, nice underwater kick, lots of body movement going on. When I do breathe, chin stays nice and low to the water, arms are coming out, clearing the water, and head goes straight back in. If I were to criticise myself a bit in that video, I would say that my head position is a bit too high and I should be looking down underwater more, like when I start the push and glide. Really important with that head position. You want it down low on the water. You don't want it up really, really high. So, is there any questions regarding butterfly? Give it a minute. Do you have any tips for keeping timing with everything? It is quite difficult. Again, the best thing to do is to have somebody else watch you that knows what they're doing. You don't even have to know them. It could be a stranger or somebody else that you see doing a stroke. If you just ask them to kind of have a quick look, give you some feedback, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to. The swimming community is quite nice unless they have their underwater headphones in. Then it's like the gym, they don't want to be bothered. With actual timing and stuff, everything will start to feel more natural as you start getting closer and closer to the actual timing. But different things work for different people. Private in-depth lessons, I do, if you want to book me out. I also need to do hi Henley. Yeah, you can find a link on my socials on my private Instagram, which you have, so I'm sure we can get something going. Any other questions? If not, we are going to cut to another quick break. We'll let some questions come in and I'll answer any new ones at the start before we go on to some breaststroke, my favourite stroke of all time. I will see you guys in a few minutes. Right, everybody, we are back for the final little bit, breaststroke. To answer the most recent question, will you be doing more streams? Hopefully. Hopefully, if SwimWild like this kind of content, it gets some good feedback, then they might let me borrow their pool a little bit more, and kind of get some more things like this. Maybe go over. I haven't done anything for backstroke. We could do a backstroke one. We could go over some life-saving things. We could go over some higher level, lower level, different things. It'd be quite good fun too, I think. So, should we get right into breaststroke? Breaststroke is one of the strokes that, if it is taught wrong from a young age, which, personal opinion, most swim schools do teach it wrong from a young age, it just lasts for life, and it is really difficult to kind of get to kind of change the technique, get rid of bad habits. There's a couple different tricks that we can do for it, but yeah, it is probably the hardest one for that. So, to start with, we will have a look at my breaststroke. Perfect. So, having another look. Nice push and glide. First thing to take note of. My arms, they never go wider really than my shoulders. They go out to there, and then they bend down before bringing them around, in and through. Really nice narrow arms. Next thing to take a look at is my kick. Now, my kick starts feet flexed out compared to being pointed, and my knees don't go out very, very wide like there. What I then do is I will whip my feet around in a circle to kind of close it off, and then all I'm going to do, glide. Gliding just slightly underneath the water where my head is below, as it is the fastest way to travel slightly under the water. Reading chat there, that's quite funny. So, my feet do exactly the same thing at the same time, my arms do exactly the same thing at the same time. Hips stay nice and high to the water, I push them down when I take a breath, when I breathe, chin stays nice and low, head tucks back down. So, I could talk about breaststroke and paw teachings all day. The most kind of important thing about breaststroke is having a really nice whip kick. Wedge kicks are okay, but if they're taught wrong, they just don't work. They're really ineffective, you will really struggle moving, and then you tend to rely on your arms more, which then, it's then not swimming breaststroke, to be honest. So, we're going to have a quick look at the video, and you will be able to see the difference between a wedge kick and a whip kick. So, first things first. Wedge kick. Now this is the classic bend, star, snap that most teachers will teach. Feet start together, then they go out before coming around together. Really annoyingly, when this happens, you are getting most of your power from squeezing your feet together, which isn't good. We don't want that because it is not a lot of power generated. See, as I say no. And it looks like this. Straight away you can see a clear difference. Really wide kick don't really move anywhere. Honestly, I was getting most of my power from my arms. Arms are still really good, breathing still really good. It is just the legs. It goes out really wide. So, goes out really wide before coming in to the middle together. Not good. Bend, star, snap, absolutely no. There are some cases that you can use it for and for it to be alright with. Now, the next thing that we're also going to have a look at, because the kind of fix will help with both, is something called a screw kick. A screw kick will happen when one foot is going to be a bit lower than the other one. I have to keep... So, screw kick will happen when one foot isn't turned out all the way, or one hip is slightly lower, or one leg isn't quite doing what it's meant to while the other is. Your legs need to work together at the same time to come up and around. We'll have a quick look at the video. As you'll see, one of my feet working okay, the other is all over the place, coming up out of the water, just not really behaving how I want it to. Rest of my body is still fine, breathing's still fine, but I'm really struggling to stay fine and have good technique with the rest when my kick is that bad. So, this one's my good leg. Really, really good flexed foot, working nicely. The other foot isn't flexed. It is just floppy, kind of going all over the place. Again, really slow, really inefficient. Here is the correct one. It is called a whip kick. It is called a whip kick because you whip your feet around. So, wedge kick again. Just to clarify, wedge kick, bend, star, snap. Bad. Whip kick, you start by turning your feet out before, bend your knees, feet come back down around to the wall, still feet are bent, still flexed, and then my feet are going to go around and together in more of a circle like that, compared to the bend, star, snap like that. They are just going around, whipping around in that circle. Bend, around, squeeze. Really nice, effective whip kick. So, best way to get good at this, gonna go back to very basics. Grab yourself a noodle. Noodles are not just for stage 1, stage 2 babies, they are for people of all ages. Noodles are the best thing ever. You're going to go on your back, you're going to have a look at your feet, and you're just going to watch what you're doing. Bend, around and squeeze, bend, around, squeeze. All the time, bend, around, squeeze. The other way you can think of it is, we go back, feet, knees, around and squeeze. Feet and knees around and squeeze. And the more you do it, the smoother you will get with it. Feet and knees around and squeeze. Turning around. Feet and knees around and squeeze. Start with your feet, around and squeeze. I will go into why feet position is really, really important also. So, as you get better, you can do it without a noodle. Just go onto your back, start by floating, really work on that whip kick. The other thing to think about is trying to get your feet out wider than your knees. So it should look like, instead of out there, it should be more like knees in, feet go out. Bit tricky to show online. Again though, just take your time really working on that nice whip kick. You can also do it in a streamline. Arms above your head, A little bit harder to balance, but makes you be a bit more efficient, get a really nice strong push. Just a little bit of a tricky way of doing things. So, once you've nailed it on your back and you're happy with your feet, the fact that you were doing a whip kick and there is no screw kick, you can grab a float, do the same on your front. So, start by holding your float, just helps keep your upper body nice and high. Nice push and glide. Breathe, kick. Take your breath, then you kick. As you come up, start your kick and go. Again, really nice whip kick. We go back having another quick look. My feet are going from there around and together, compared to before where they were going out and in. Out and in, you will not generate any power. You will need that around. Really effective, really efficient. Again, my whole body throughout this stays very, very flat for the gliding. Really, really nice and flat for the gliding. Really good. And then as I come up to take a breath, chest lifts up, chest comes up slightly, hips I push down, so I go up and then forward and down. Up, forward and down. It's very start-stop for a stroke, very, very start-stop. Same again on the way back, just taking your time while you're doing it. So, also do it streamlined. Again, we've been over streamlining before. Hopefully all of you in chat, or 6 people watching, know what streamline is. Waiting for a bit of chat reply. Do you all know what streamlining is? One yes. Who else? Come on. No, right. Streamlining is, benefits of streamlining is, being nice and small like this means that the water around you, only a little bit will touch you. So, any water that does touch you will go around, compared to, if I was really, really wide, then the rest of it is going to touch. If I do a bit of a live demo, so, streamlining. Arms go on your ears to start with, hands nice and tight, then from your ears you're going to move it behind your head, so you are even smaller, really, really nice and thin. So, compared to it being really, really wide like this, where loads and loads of water can push down on me, any water now will just kind of go around me. Makes everything much more efficient. Almost. Very similar to air resistance, it just reduces drag throughout the water. Hope that makes sense for everybody. What's really good about it for drills is that way your kick can become much more efficient and you are also working on being more streamlined in general. Streamlining is everything. A really good teacher I've worked with once said that being 5% more streamlined is the equivalent of being 50% stronger than the person next to you. And it is true. If you are not streamlined in the water, you will have a really hard time. So, moving on to the drill. Streamlined breaststroke kick on your front. Start with a nice push. Everything's very flat. Nice whip kick. Breathe, whip kick, glide. Breathe, whip kick, glide. That's all it is. Everything travels, everything flows. I will definitely do a quiz at the end. Breathe and kick. Breathe and kick. So, very quickly, we are going to go over importance of turning your feet out, because I've mentioned it quite a bit. Really, really important your feet are flexed. If your feet aren't flexed, you just won't have anything to push the water with. It's like trying to kick a football. You want to use the inside part of your foot to push the water around and together. Just gives you that almost like that catch that we talked about earlier, almost like a catch for your feet. Just lets you push and carry all that water. If your feet are turned out, you won't move anywhere. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Last little part we are going to have a look at is the arms. For that first example, my arms are really wide. Don't really want wide arms. Wide arms are not good. Instead, you want to make sure everything stays really narrow. Like that. Even my breathing, I stay really low. Chin stays nice and low on the water, touching it if you can. Helps with streamlining, keeps your body nice and flat. Best way to practice it, you are going to get really low on poolside. Just so your shoulders are over. Now, from there, start, hands out in front of you, outstretched. You are going to go out for your out skull. Wait for it. Out skull, pull down and in. You never want your hands to go wider than this part. If your hand's out there too wide, you are just creating much more drag than you need to, not getting a lot out of it. From here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to sweep my arms in before going out again. Recover and through. Out skull, pull, recover, breathe and through. Nice and narrow, and all together it will look like this in the water. Arms to breathe, kick to glide. Arms to breathe, kick to glide. Which moves on to timing a bit. You want to breathe as soon as you start your arms and kick. Start your kick as you breathe and through. Nice long glide in between. Do we have any questions for breaststroke? Best situation to use breaststroke? It kind of depends what situation you mean. Breaststroke doesn't use a lot of energy, doesn't really get your heart rate going that much, so if you're just going for a nice relaxing swim, breaststroke's nice and easy. Why is it my favourite? So, I am a natural breaststroke. What that means is, naturally, my feet go out a little bit wider and tend to be in that flexed position when I am kicking. For a flutter kick, you want your feet like a ballerina, pointy toes. Most people naturally have it like that. Toes point when they kick, so that way you can flick the water. For me, I'm the opposite. I had to train my feet to be like that because they wanted to be up like that, which means that I don't get a lot out of a flutter kick unless I'm really actively thinking to point my toes. For most people, it's the other way around. So, if somebody with naturally flexed, well, naturally pointed toes like that, tries breaststroke, they have to really think about keeping their feet out like that. That way, when you go around, they are still really thinking about it. For me, my brain just does it naturally. So, it's one of those things that it's a bit lucky. With younger kids, what it means is that breaststroke is much harder to teach to younger kids because they don't have that full body control. But if you're trying to teach a natural breaststroker to flutter kick at a younger age, it's the other way around. They tend to try and learn a bit more of a breaststrokey kick, and then they kick out like that to the side rather than up and down. How can you tell? The really easiest way to do it is ask anybody to show you a flutter kick. If they do a flutter kick with pointy toes like that and it's more out to the side, they're a natural breaststroker because they're trying to use the inside part of their foot for power compared to the top of it. So, is there any other questions with breaststroke? or any other questions in general about swimming, anything anybody would like me to go back over, please just let me know. We'll give it a minute or two. What content will be on my Facebook? Hopefully it should just be some either lesson plans for teachers, common issues and fixes for young kids, all the way through to sorry, I've been thrown off by that. Content on the Facebook. Lesson plans for teachers, hopefully. I will try and work on some of those. It will be clips and bits from streams like this. General how to improve, different things like that. Do I have to swim in water or can I use other liquids? Personally, I think water's best. I haven't tried swimming in Coke yet, but I feel that would be quite fun. Or swimming in beer, that could be good also. You could go maybe to Netherlands and give that a try. I'm really trying to think of one now. Anything else, or is that everything from everybody? What's best age to start your child to learn to swim? It can really be from any age, to be honest. If a baby is really comfortable in the water and they like it, then it can be a really fun kind of thing to get them in, maybe join some swim bees classes, have a bit of a social with other parents. If a child's a bit more nervous, then maybe trying to get them into a preschool might not be the best idea. Maybe waiting until they're about 4 or 5, they can kind of have a bit more like cognitive thinking going on, they're a bit more self-aware to what's actually happening. It can be a little bit better then. It really just depends on how much your child likes the water. I personally think joining into a preschool class about 3 can be really, really good because it builds up their confidence, kind of just lets them explore, have a bit of fun, and then actually starting with stage 1 and Swim England programme from 4 all the way up to when you're an adult is really, really good also because you will cover everything. When you get to about stage 6, 7, that's when you can kind of start to diversify maybe into for example, artistic swimming, diving, water polo. You can do different things like that from there. But it kind of really depends on the child and kind of how mature they are, what they want to do with it. Best for long distances. Best stroke for long distance, in my opinion, for a timed one would probably be freestyle. For a non-timed one, you just want to get some things up, a little bit less intense breaststroke. If you're trying to swim a kilometre of butterfly, good luck. I hope there's a lifeguard on the pool. Best tips for older swimmers learning from scratch. It will take time. You will not learn to swim overnight. You just need to kind of go through, take your time with things. Best thing to do, follow Blapt. Work on floating, then work on your kicking, arms, breathing, timing. You need to have all the components there, layer by layer, before you can kind of go on and work on the other thing. I personally think that is probably a criticism from me for other teachers, is that a lot of other teachers will think, no, I need to cover everything in one lesson. You really don't. You just need to take some time, go through it bit by bit. Do you need to do stretches beforehand? You should be doing stretches beforehand for any other exercise also. Really good one for swimming, controlled arm rotations. I love them. Also just practicing that streamline, going up. You can get a really nice back crack. From it, really, really good stretch. Stretching out your legs, your hamstrings, also really important. Having a nice salty meal beforehand, so that way you're, you're not gonna get any cramp or anything. What muscles are good to work out for swimming? That is a really good question. It really depends on the stroke. Shoulders, really important for everything. Butterfly, you need a nice strong back. Breaststroke, you want to work on your kind of your inner thigh muscles, which would be really, really useful for that, so that way you get a nice strong whip. But genuinely, like whole body workouts would be really good. Legs are also really good for swimming, for your pushes off, your diving, different things like that. Do I need to do my theory before getting into the point? It would really help if you know what you're doing before you're getting in the water. That way also you'll just be a lot safer kind of in there, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it a lot more. It's like, you know, loading up a game you've got no idea about and then getting absolutely destroyed by better players. If you know, kind of do a bit of research, know what things are good, know where you're going, you'll probably have a lot more fun. Right, if that is everything from everybody, then thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned something, or even if you joined just for a bit of a laugh. Because I'm sure, do you recommend starting in the shallow end? I would recommend everybody starting in water that they can stand up in. It is much safer than going straight into a deep end and being thrown in by your parents. Great, thank you everybody, and have a lovely day. I'm sure you'll all be messaging me after with requests for lessons and privates. Thank you, bye bye.